Today's video is sponsored by Figure Markets, the largest non-bank mortgage lender in the US with over 15 billion unlocked on their lending platform. They've just lowered rates on their Bitcoin and ETH-backed loans even more to 8.91%, which is 9.999% APR, improving their already industry-low fixed-rate 50% LTV loans. They keep building as well, having also just launched decentralized MPC custody, the only place to get that amongst the major loan providers, and removed interest deferral fees entirely. What is MPC decentralized custody, you might ask? Well, it's a Bitcoin or ETH on-chain wallet with multiple key shards to protect you from a single entity custody failure. You can always see your crypto ownership in a segregated wallet and verify your collateral hasn't moved. Whether you're funding a major purchase, like a down payment on a home, investing in new opportunities, or even buying more Bitcoin, Figure makes it straightforward and transparent. Visit their app or click my link below to take out a Bitcoin-backed loan with Figure today. More people are paying attention to crypto right now than ever before, so it's important to get your information from the sources you trust. That's why I want to give a big thanks to Bitwise for sponsoring today's episode. Bitwise manages over $10 billion across more than 30 crypto strategies, and they've been doing this since 2017. But here's what really sets them apart. They give back too. Bitwise actually donates part of the profits from its Bitcoin and Ethereum investments to open source developers, the people building and maintaining the networks that we rely on. So when you work with Bitwise, you're not just getting professional crypto exposure, you're helping fund the future of crypto itself. Check them out at bitwiseinvestments.com or email james@bitwiseinvestments.com and tell them Raoul sent you. Thanks. So here we are at Token 2049. It really is one of the most energetic, incredible events. Speakers from all around the world and visitors from every country you can ever imagine, all trying to learn something together, something new, this exciting world of crypto and technology. It's where you go and make friends, lifelong friends. And what's so nice is to see people with big smiles on their faces, happy to be here and happy to be together. So hopefully see you next time in Singapore. Real Vision will be there. I look forward to seeing you all. I'm Raoul Pal, and welcome to my show, The Journeyman. The Journeyman, as you all know, is where I travel to that nexus of understanding between macro, crypto, and the exponential age of technology. I only want a little bit different for you now, but I can see that people are starting to get it and get interested. It's in digital art. Digital art, or NFTs, are really one of the breakout use cases of blockchain technology that nobody expected. But this is the thing that has accrued enormous value. What we found now is that the most valuable block space in the world are actually NFTs. A single block space on Ethereum has traded at $15–20 million in the case of an alien punk. We've seen Beeple trade at $69 million. We've seen X copies trade multi-millions of dollars. We've seen a Ringers trade, I think, $12 million. This is the most valuable block space there will ever be. What this is you need to think of ETH as an economy. Think of ETH as part of this new crypto land, and ETH is the United States. In the United States, you're buying dollars to gain access to the US because you want to invest in America. So you use ETH to invest in the ETH economy. And if you can, you want to buy the best assets available. That's where all wealth compounds over time, owning the scarcest assets in the most vibrant economy. In the US, it would be, let's say, Manhattan, Central Park, overlooking Central Park, Fifth Avenue. That is apex US property. Maybe there's a couple of other places. Maybe it's Palm Beach. Maybe it's the Hamptons. But you know what I'm saying? This is property so scarce that rich people fight over them and pay ridiculous prices well above and beyond that of normal property, even for the same square footage. It's the same with art. Art is the apex token on all of blockchains. And that's something most people can't get their heads around. But art is actually upstream of everything. If you think of somebody who's worth billions of dollars, how many houses do they own? Most people kind of tap out at 5 because it becomes hard to manage. But when you go to their houses, they often have 10 times the value of their house in the art on the walls in their house. You see, art has over the millennia been human storytelling, but it's also been that mimetic capsule, time capsule of culture that becomes valuable and becomes a store of wealth. It's transportable, it's exchangeable. And because it's scarce, it outperforms debasement of currency, and it generally outperforms base assets over time, as long as the economy is vibrant. So that's why most global property and global real estate is priced in dollars. That's the core denominating price for luxury assets. So a quick break in your regular programming. If you're serious about your future, grab my free report called Prepare for 2030. I think you've got 5 years to make as much money as possible, and this guide will help you navigate what's coming. The link is in the description. Download it now. In crypto land, it's still really an ETH. Yes, there's ordinals. Yes, there's art on Tezos. Yes, there's other things, but generally ETH has accrued the most value in this. The ETH economy captures that value. So the ETH economy is growing at a huge pace. ETH is still, even after the recent corrections it had and now the big run up, ETH since it came out 2015 has outperformed Bitcoin. It's a vibrant, growing economy. And it is generating wealth. As ETH goes to new all-time highs, everybody who owns ETH will be in profits. And what people do is recycle profits into longer-term wealth. You can hold your money in Bitcoin. That's a great long-term store of wealth. Or you can hold it in art. And there's been an experiment that many people are running is, what outperforms? A CryptoPunk, of which there's 10,000, or a Bitcoin, of which there's 21 million? Now, they're not the same things, obviously. But what we found is punks generally outperform over time because they're super scarce and they have high status signaling, which is what humans love. So art is very important, but to frame this up in a macro context, we're a $4 trillion asset class in crypto today. If I extrapolate out trend rate of growth, I get to $100 trillion in 10 years. I actually get it by 2032, but I could be way off. Who knows, right? But let's say $100 trillion. That's in line with other asset classes. In fact, it's less than most other asset classes. So that's not stupid. It's the fastest adoption of any technology the world's ever seen. So it should get there quickly. Great. Because of Metcalfe's law that we've talked about before. But if we go to 100 trillion, then that's going to generate 96 trillion of new wealth. Now, let's assume Raoul is a total moron, which would be a good thing to do, and halve me. Well, then 46 trillion of wealth is going to get generated. That's more than Silicon Valley, Wall Street, the Chinese billionaires, the Russian billionaires, the Indian billionaires added together. And we're going to do it in 10 years. That's a shit ton of money. We're all participating in that by owning parts of these networks. But that is going to accrue in the end, upstream of everything is art. And we will see unbelievable amounts of money going into art. So it's a great investment opportunity. It is also culture. It's the culture of this time, this great time to be alive, where technology, crypto, we're online trying to figure it all out. We've got, this tribalism going on. We're making friends. We're 24 hours a day trying to make our fortune, unfucking our futures. We will remember these days till the day we die. And that cultural memory is valuable. Like the memory of Warhol was valuable to a baby boomer, or the value of Damien Hirst was valuable for somebody of my generation. They're culturally relevant. This is massive culture happening at scale. There's 600 million wallets around the world. People are making life-changing wealth, also getting wrecked, all of the stories in between. And all of that gets encapsulated by art. So you may not think you want to know about art. You might think NFTs are bullshit. I can click save. You're not listening. You're not paying attention to the greatest store of wealth we've ever been given. So let's start with an interview with one of the greatest collectors, one of the nicest people in the space, Batsoupyum, to help us think through this, because I want to understand how he does it, because he is brilliant at this. So anyway, enjoy the conversation. Join me, Raoul Pal, as I go on a journey of discovery through the macro, crypto, and exponential age landscapes. In The Journeyman, I talk to the smartest people in the world so we can all become smarter together. Batsoupyum, welcome back to Real Vision. This is the first time you and I have actually done this on camera, I think. You've been on before.
Yeah, I have. I was on with AC a number of years ago, who's a colleague of mine at 6529. But yeah, this is the first time just you and I. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I'm really, really looking forward to this conversation. Lots I want to pick your brains on. But first, without doxing yourself, give a little people a bit of context, background, kind of what you did and how you started getting into crypto and then this space, because it always helps frame it for people.
Yeah, I come from a hedge fund background. I was in on Wall Street many years.
So we're both recovering hedge funders. This is the issue.
Yeah, exactly. So I decided to leave that business sort of around 2014, 2015. I still do a lot in public markets and things like that. I found crypto on the first Trump election, which would have been 2016, and it was the Trump Hillary Clinton election, and the world was kind of uncertain back then, and again, it was an election unlike anything we had ever seen, and I just had this overwhelming feeling coming. I covered. By the way, backing up a second, I covered financial services during the financial crisis, and I remember back then very
in equities or
distinctly
credit or
in equities. And,
right.
In order to understand the equities back then, you also had to understand the credit. They were inextricably linked. So I really understood both. And I was so scared back then. I was so afraid of what I saw. And nobody else was watching this. I mean, it was like, I think people knew the world was in trouble, but I don't know that people really understood the depths of it. I actually went out to a local pawn shop and bought gold and stashed it away because I was so worried. I mean, I just thought, holy moly, I cannot believe what I'm seeing on a daily basis. And I felt a little bit like that in 2020. And again, it has nothing to do with who won the election or anything like that. It was very clear the world was going to change dramatically no matter who won the election. And so I actually went out and bought Bitcoin during that period. And that was really, I had always sort of looked at crypto, but I never really studied it hard and read books about it until 2016. And that's what really got me started. I proceeded to kind of ignore everything else in the space for a couple of years because I was just so busy with other projects. And in 2020 is when I really started discovering digital art and NFTs. The way I discovered it, funny enough, this is sort of ironic. In 2020, we had yet another election, and I had looked at it pretty extensively, and I had done, I had run my own numbers on it. I tried to do my own research, and I knew with pretty high conviction that Joe Biden was going to win. And I wanted a way to express that. So I went to a site called Polymarket, which is widely known now, but it was not known at all back then. It had just launched. And the reason why I went there was like, it's illegal back then to bet in the United States, and it was certainly illegal to bet on elections, let alone football games. And Polymarket was crypto based and it was anonymous. So I was able to express this sort of viewpoint on their platform. The guy who runs Polymarket is a guy named Shane Copland. And Shane actually is a very early OG in the crypto art space. And, I was on the Discord there and I was kind of being an asshole and not being very nice to people because it was crazy and wild times. And that's just kind of how I am. And Shane got on there and he mentioned very briefly that he was buying digital art. And I just made fun of him. I was merciless. I was like, you're an idiot. You must be the dumbest person on planet Earth. And they just kept going and going and going. And Shane just took it really well. And he's a super smart guy. And we ended up chatting in DMs about it, among other things. And it got me really intrigued. I was super interested. I had never in my entire life used that side of my brain before thinking about art and thinking about, sort of creativity in that way.
You've not collected art? You weren't a collector of anything?
No, I mean, I grew up collecting baseball cards and other little novelty items like that. My kids collect Pokemon cards and things like that. I really like collecting, but the art side of it had never resonated. I mean, my wife collects all the art in our house. I don't do any of that whatsoever. I have no art background. I do now, but I came into this with none whatsoever.
Because she collects the physical art. and you collect the digital art.
She does, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's kind of a interesting symbiosis. She's told me recently, she's like, "You're not allowed to get another physical from an NFT. We are completely out of wall space." So I don't know what's going to happen the next time I get something that includes a physical. We'll have a little talking to, I think. So I got into this in 2020, started looking at it a little harder, and I bought this thing called a hash mask, which is a pretty popular NFT back then. I mean, I'm telling you, I ran a hedge fund that had $1 billion under management. I bought this hash mask for $600, and in a week it went down to $400. And it was like I had lost $500 million at my old hedge fund. Like I was apoplectic. I was like, how could I be so stupid? Everything I said to Shane had come true. I'm annoyed. I'm such an idiot. And then I kind of like I settled down and I stopped coping about it. I was like, there's really something here. It's because I mean, there was crazy people back then, even way crazier than it is now. And I was like, there's really something interesting about this. And I found Super Rare, which is one of the major art platforms, shortly thereafter. And the rest is sort of history. I haven't left since then, and it's been an interesting journey to say the least.
So before we dig into the details of how you collect, what you collect, and what you think, what's your kind of macro thesis about this? When you start putting money in it, yes, you can do that for individual one piece of art, but when you start building a collection, you have to have sort of a macro thesis. What's your whole thesis behind this?
The macro thesis is very simple. It goes like this: digital art is art. Digital art has been around for as long as computers have been around. In the 50s, they were making, there are people like Vera Molnar were making, algorithms back there and creating generative art. So digital art has been around a long time. The difference between digital and physical art is it's very hard to attach provenance to digital art. For example, you can right click and save literally any image off of the internet for years and years and years. And it was difficult for artists to carry over from digital art to a way that would allow somebody to verifiably collect it. Not impossible. I mean, digital art's been around for years, and there's been many Warhols and Bruce Naumans and things like that have sold. But what NFTs did is attach provenance to it, so it's verifiable. I know this piece was created by people. I know when it was created, and so on and so forth. So the macro thesis, I would say, once you are able to attach provenance to a piece of digital art, it doesn't change the fact that it's art. Art is art. Digital sculpture, oil paintings, whatever the hell it is, it's art. So if you ask any person on planet Earth, is digital art? 99.9% of them are going to say yes. Okay, set that aside for a moment. What changed? What changed is we did something called an NFT and attached it to a piece of digital art. And all of a sudden, the entire world, Rolling Stone and New York Times and thousands of millions of people thought we were freaking idiots. Why? Because there were these projects called PFPs, the apes, the kittens, the crazy stuff, the little cartoon characters that we call profile pictures went nuts. These things started trading for hundreds of thousands of dollars and then crashed horribly a couple years thereafter. I think this is, around 2022. So we have been, the entire digital art space has been attached, for better or for worse, to that movement. But it has nothing to do with that movement whatsoever. That is a separate category. The only thing it has to do with it is it's an NFT. So why did PFPs drag down everything with it? It makes no sense to me. So the macro overlay here is as follows. An idiot like me, who has no art background whatsoever, who had to basically learn all of this on the fly, who did not have, the amount of money I've spent here relative to what gets spent at Sotheby's and Christie's on even medium type work is nothing. Very, very small. It's a fraction of the overall art space. And yet, A, it's still art. B, it is networked art, which we can talk about if you like later. C, I have verifiable, impenetrable provenance because of blockchain. I don't understand the sort of gap between what's going on here and what's going on in the traditional art world. We're just looked down upon. And because we're looked down upon, I think it's turned people off to the space. But there's a massive opportunity here. It's art.
I get all of that, but you weren't collecting physical art, so it's like I'm just moving mediums and I get this. You suddenly decide, actually, there's value here for me, for you as a person, and probably for your portfolio. But you haven't described anything really that says, okay, well, I think that this whole space gets re-rated, or, you know, what is going through your head to decide, for you to decide to allocate so much capital to it? Because it goes beyond, this is nice art, to, listen, I'm making an investment decision as well as that.
Yeah, I mean, I think those two are inextricable, right? I mean, I think they go hand in hand. And for me, I'm in a bit of a different situation because there's two reasons why I'm doing this. The overwhelming reason why I got interested in this is to help artists. And you know, I was at a point in my career at this hedge fund business where I've been super lucky. I mean, I've been very, very fortunate. I've had a very successful career, and I was looking for ways to give back. And I mean, how awesome is it to support an emerging artist and sort of support this entire space and elevate not only these people as individuals, but the entire space as a whole. I mean, when you buy a piece of digital art here, you're not just helping out that single artist, you're helping out everybody in this space because it just generates more interest, it generates more traction. And that to me is the most attractive part of it. Now, I'm not an idiot. I mean, I'm not going to just, you know, go spend $10,000 on a piece of digital art and be fine if it goes to $5,000 the next day. That's totally unrealistic. So the financial aspect of this also plays a part. And for me, the interesting part about it is that it's still art at the end of the day. So going to absolute zero, you know, unlike a meme coin, let's say, is sort of out of the question. At the end of the day, there's an underlying intrinsic value to what you are purchasing, and you go along for the ride with the artist. So, you know, these artists, by and large, you know, 95% of them are alive and still working here. You can follow along their journey and judge for yourself if you like what they're doing or not. So the financial aspect of this is indeterminate, but I feel like for the space as a whole, there's a secular tailwind where we're just sort of making baby steps here, one by one, day by day, where this space becomes more and more and more accepted. You know, the culmination of this most recently has been the Toledo Art Museum, which showed, I mean, I went to the exhibit at the end of June. It's absolutely spectacular. It's the best representation of digital art I've ever seen. If you had told me that there would be an exhibit like that last year during the depths of one of our many bear markets, I would have said you're out of your mind. So we are becoming more accepted. We're becoming, you know, sort of an interesting space. I mean, I don't know if you watch what's going on in the chat art world, but sales are down, and famous galleries like Blum had just shut down last week or 2 weeks ago. It's not going great, and I feel like this area and this space is a breath of fresh air. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. Let me give you some context in how I approach it, because some of it addresses some of the things you're talking about and moves it on. I've seen the space, and I bought PFP and I overpaid for a ape and all of that stuff. You know,
yeah, we've all been there.
The rites of passage. I think I top ticked them perfectly. All of that stuff. But
we call those tax losses. Don't worry about it. You're fine.
I don't have taxes in the Cayman Islands, so it's just moron losses. But I had bought. I'd followed the Damien Hirst currency project because I thought it was intellectually interesting. I grew up around that Damien Hirst culture, the 90s, which I'll come on to in a sec. So I saw that, followed a few things. And then it was when two things happened. One, I was at Ian Rogers' house in Paris. I don't think, you weren't there, that one. And I was sitting around, and there was just a really interesting group of people. And there was music people and fashion people and finance people and technology people and software people, all sorts of people. And they all have this commonality of interest. And I'm a big follower of culture. Culture's like my thing. And I'm like, this doesn't happen unless there's something, the seeds of a cultural explosion is happening, because this is really, really interesting. Then it really hit for me when I met you at Cosmo's, at Beeple's studio, when there was you, Cosmo, Eric, Dimitri, everybody was there for that small gathering. And it made sense to me suddenly. And to hear everybody's stories, they all mentioned one artist to me, which was X Copy. It's like, okay, he's the OG. So I'm like, okay, I've now got something to anchor onto. I've got, I like to have something to start from where it can make sense. And he was British, and it referenced Banksy to me. It referenced Damien Hirst. It referenced the music cultural rebellion that went on in the late 90s. So it's like, okay, this is good. And then I came back and thought about it and talked to people about it. And I realized that, at the time we were like a $2.5 trillion space. And if I just extrapolate trend rate of growth of adoption and discount it a bit, we get to 100 trillion at some point in early 2030s. So I'm like, okay, upstream of all wealth is art. And we're about to have the largest wealth creation event in all history in a short period of time. Assume I'm an idiot, halve me and halve me again. It's still more wealth than all of Silicon Valley's ever made. And it's like, okay. And so I just thought, okay, this is a really interesting space. And then with the disruption of AI coming and what it means for us and what it means for our digital lives and the fact that tomorrow is more digital than today and will continue to be that way. And that's where I got to that. And then I went to speak to some friends of mine, other old hedge fund people who were much more successful because they were the billionaires who collected a lot of art. And I spoke to them and said, what do you think about all of this stuff? And firstly, it was Alan Howard who first said to me, there is no market for all of the baby boomer and older Gen X art. There's only going to be some that survive because there's these huge collections in hands of people and the new generation won't buy it, or they won't buy most of it. And he was dead right. That was in 2020. He called me up and said this when he just started developing his thesis. And it's dead right. And that's what you're picking up in the trad art market. There is no market because demographics. It's like what will happen to parts of the housing market and stuff like that because of this demographic issue. There's no real buyers for anything further out on the tail, the derivative artists of whoever. And also then I realized that the big collectors of the traditional art space weren't going to come into this space. Because I spoke to them, I spoke to a really good friend of mine who's built $1.5 billion of art. He was like the patron of Damien Hirst and Gerhard Richter and Lucian Freud and the whole thing. He's like, I get it. He goes, I put all my energy into that in my 30s and 40s. He goes, I can't do it again. I just can't. And then I focused on the crypto world. So anyway, that's kind of how I've framed it as a mental model in my head. And then it's just, as you said, once you've got a cultural movement, the most exciting, fun thing is to fan the flames, to help everybody. It's like being around, some cool music scene. It's just amazing to see this incredible rise in creativity.
Yeah, I agree. The interesting thing about what you just said is something I briefly touched on earlier. At least to me, that's the interesting thing. It's that the difference between what we have here and the traditional world is that this is networked art, digitally native art on digitally native networks.
What do you mean by that? Explain what you mean, because it's a really important concept.
It's extraordinarily important. It is the fundamental difference between this and traditional art, and it's the number one reason why I don't think you've seen a lot of traditional art collectors and will not see a lot of traditional art collectors come into the space. It's a fundamentally different type of movement. And what I mean by that is a digital artist creates a piece of digital work. It sells as an NFT. That gets broadcast to thousands, if not, millions of people in some respects, like Beeple, for example, of people worldwide using Twitter, using all kinds of digital mediums and social media, Instagram and so forth. That networked culture spreads so fast.
This is how memetics spread, right? It's the same thing.
Exactly. We are spreading art in a very similar way to memetics get spread. And that is a fundamentally different way to think about distribution. So the traditional distribution model is pay a gallery 50%. They go and market it and do their best, or even if you're lucky, you get into Sotheby's and Christie's and get to an auction. If you're not, you stay at the gallery, and perhaps that's not an unlucky statement, but you go and get sold to a private collector, and it's very sort of inside baseball. But the key there is you pay the gallerist 50%. Here, you are having a lot of the work done for you. That's what a network is. That's what the fundamental difference between a network and a non-network piece of art is, that the work is being done for you across the medium. So I can go to Twitter and see how many views this latest X copy had. See, you can read all the comments about it. You get real-time feedback on whether or not people like it. Now, whether or not the masses are correct or not, they're wrong a lot, and I'm certainly wrong a lot, is less relevant than the fact that it is a part of the network now, and the masses can see it in real time. Unlike an oil painting, for example, that gets sent to a gallery. Yeah, the gallerist can put it online, the gallerist can put it in their magazine, and so on and so forth. But the number of people who are going to see that and care is a fraction of what you have here. So what you have here is, 6529, who's a colleague of mine, and I talk about this a lot. Samantha in Tennessee, who loves butterflies and has been doing a butterfly photography collection her entire life, can literally put that as an NFT collection, put it online, and people who are super into butterfly photography can find her almost instantaneously. That is literally impossible to do in a traditional art world. It takes months, takes years to build up that kind of following.
We do see it with culturally relevant artists that are at the apex of culture. So Warhol, Dali, Damien Hirst, great examples, because they produced a pyramid structure of work with the expensive one-of-ones down to broader, whether it's prints or signed, that was done by a factory. Essentially, they all had a factory of people doing this stuff. And what happened was it became mainly in person. So the in-person people would go to the factory, see the art, talk about it, boast to their friends. It networked through society really well. And then it became part of pop culture. And the music bands were there, and the Stones were hanging out, and the Bowie was hanging out, and all of that. And then it got onto TV. So they used the medium at the time pretty well, but not that many people did. There's literally like a handful of artists that use that network model, and they're still the most successful artists of the period.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I think Damien Hirst is a particularly good example, because he's actually, as you mentioned, done a digital art drop, an NFT drop, and we can talk about that in a second. But I think the really interesting thing that you just said is sort of like it's Warhol on steroids, right? It's you are taking digital culture and spreading it far and wide from the get-go. Now, that implies a couple things. Number one, everyone here can do that. So super competitive. I mean, just because you have ability to network your art doesn't mean it's going to become a successful part of the network, because the competition is fierce, and we're still only in the top of the first inning on this, right? So it just keeps getting, more and more competitive by the day. The second thing implies, which is super counterintuitive to a lot of people, and myself, I will include myself in this early on. You want your art in as many hands as humanly possible. You want as much of your art out there to as many people. I encourage artists to do free, edition drops once in a while, just to get it out there, because the value of the network increases exponentially the more nodes in the network.
It's Metcalfe's law.
Exactly. A node in this instance is a person. It is a collector. There's a really interesting artist / business person in this space. His name is OSF, and I recently had a conversation with him.
Ovi's here all the time on Real Vision. He's here every week.
He's fantastic. He's like one of the smartest people in the space. I hope he's not listening, because I don't want him to get a big head, but I absolutely love him. And he's an artist, but he's created this drink brand called Rect Drinks. And the interesting thing about Rect Drinks is it's a Web3 native. It started in Web3 and it moved outward. And he really gets this idea, which is get Rect token. He has a token, he has an NFT, and then he has the physical drinks, among other things in the ecosystem. Get these things in as many people as possible, because those people then become your evangelists. That's the point of a network. That's the fundamental difference. If I could sum it up, simply, that is the difference between networked art and non-networked art, is that these people become your biggest fans and become your evangelists. There's a phenomenal essay, I'm sure you're familiar with it, by a gentleman named Kevin Kelly.
1,000 True Fans.
Yeah, and Chris Dixon adapted it to Web3 a few years after that, which is also just a phenomenal essay. And the fundamental thesis of that essay is you find your 1,000 true fans, and they become your evangelists. They do the work, the distribution work for you. They become your Larry Gagosian. They become your, name your top 5 gallerists out there, right? I mean, they become the people who are championing this for you.
One of the difficult things is, okay, fine. So you say get as much out there as possible, but you need to be careful not to just keep diluting the same holders, right? The game is actually to broaden the number of holders as opposed to just dumping new art on the same holder base.
Absolutely.
And there is the balance and the tricky position. You can see a lot of artists on Twitter, on X now, like struggling to get exposure or attention to broaden their social network, their social graph.
Yeah, and I think everybody will have a slightly different view of this. My view of this is that there are multiple ways to distribute in this network. It starts, the smallest way is at the top, which is a 1 of 1. There's only one. It's very unique. It's highly, rare. The next smallest way would be like a 1 of 5, and what we call an addition. And that could be 5 identical pieces, or it could be 5 pieces that kind of all are under the same theme. And then you can just grow it from there, where you have a 1 of 1,000 with 1,000 identical pieces. We do I work with 6529 group right now, which I should have mentioned earlier. We do something called the memes. Every week we drop 3 different artists, and each meme drop has roughly 300 identical additions to it. At a minute, forgetting all the things that you can do with one of those cards, it is a piece of art that is one of 300. There are 300 new collectors. Typically, there's probably some existing collectors in there, but for every single artist there's 300 brand new collectors. Those people are now a part of your network. They're one of your evangelists. So I get that the supply concern is there, that you have to be careful and manage your supply. I would just say that as a counterpoint, supply matters, but it depends on what kind of supply. Is it 1 of 1 supply? Do you have 1,000 1 of 1s out there, or do you have 100 1 of 1s out there and 10,000 additions? That's a much different type of supply than having the former versus the latter. So I think there's some thought to be put in there, but my view on this is that you cannot get enough additions into enough of collectors' hands in this space. It costs very little to produce, and I realize most artists cringe at the thought of giving their art away. But that's how you increase your network. That's the value of what you're doing here. That's the network.
The 2 most famous examples of different ways of using network effects, I think the god of doing it has been Xcopy, which is
I agree.
Astonishing multi-layering of the impossible to buy 1 of 1s. This massive competition for the 1 of 10s that social consensus has deemed to be the ones.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure he did this on purpose, but I agree. No. Please continue. This is a fascinating conversation.
But then over time, I think he's understood, because then he's produced these larger series, these super large series, and now he works within that framework quite clearly, and then he can now experiment with different types of art because his social graph is so big that it allows him freedom to do different things, because a lot of people don't get that freedom because their collector base is too small. It's been astonishing to watch. And then it's been astonishing to watch things like 1 of 1s basically don't trade anymore.
Correct. Yes.
Really basically don't trade. So the next one trades will be like $10, and then the next one will be $20. It's almost impossible. And so what we're seeing is like these 1 of 10s, which I think is super powerful. This is Jedi Wolf's idea, is that if you've got a 1 of 10 that is desirable from a desirable artist, we will all fight over them because you have a 1 in 10 chance of getting one out of somebody's hands.
Absolutely.
And so they actually become super desirable. And because people talk about them, because you've got 10 times the multiplier of people talking about it.
And I think that this took me a while as well to get my head around. Like, I mean, I think the 1 of 10, the most famous 1 of 10 series in this space is called Last Selfie, and by Xcopy,
which I've got, and have you got one as well?
I know. I don't. So I know. Thanks for rubbing it in. I appreciate that. So that's probably the most famous 1 of 10. And the interesting thing about many of these editions is, from a financial perspective, if you add up the market cap value of the edition and you compare it to an average to above average 1 of 1, the market cap of the editions, not even just for Xcopy, for quite a few artists, tends to be higher. And that has persisted over bull markets, bear markets. I mean, again, I've been here about 5-6 years, And I see it all the time. And it always confused me. I always thought this doesn't make any sense.
It's your Metcalfe's law multiplier that's working
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And it took me a little while to understand that, but that's what's going on. It's what you just said. There's a food fight over the best editions, and it becomes a Metcalfe multiplier. You have a 10 node network of a highly, highly sought after piece, and people are willing to pay a premium for it because it's so well networked.
Because if you think about it, for the one of ones, there's COS and 6529, and that's about it, that actually even displays them and talks about owning them.
Yeah.
I mean, of the 50, whatever, 57 or whatever one of ones of Xcopy, literally, they never get shown, they never get talked about, you never see them, they never change hands.
I think he talks about them more than we do, actually.
I know, and it's kind of a shame, because the whole space misses the joy of these things. You know, at least COS has kind of made his character around them, because he was such a big collector, and the 6529 collection as well. And it's just like, it's a shame we don't see more of them. So the whole game gets played out in the one of tens.
I agree, but I also think there's a good reason for it. I mean, I own a couple one of ones of his, and I generally don't post about them for two reasons. Number one, there's a humility aspect here where it is a bit of a flex. I mean, the average Xcopy 101 is probably over $1 million now. So, you know,
and the rest, they're more.
Yeah, I mean, it's
probably
just
double that now, really.
At least, you know, and this is probably for not even the most sought after piece. So it's a bit of you are definitely identifying yourself as like a heavy hitter in the space, and I think like at this point, I'm not really, I don't need that. Like for me, the bigger reason, and the second reason, I think, is because a lot of people, and I think this is a good reason, a lot of people perceive that X, in this space at least, has already made it. And it would be good for us to promote, for the health of the ecosystem, to help the others. So I spend a lot of time just trying to help the others, promoting them, you know, posting about their art on the space, because I feel like the X, posting at X at this point is more of a flex than it is a helping out X.
I agree, but I do it because it is what pulls up the whole space, right? You all need to anchor on something, right? And you see the aspiration of, you know, we know many people who've gone from buying a piece of Xcopy for $100 and it's worth unknown amounts, $5 million plus. I mean, there's a lot of people in the space, and it's aspirational. I mean, you know, I've met Xcopy. He's a super down-to-earth, shy, introverted guy. And it's like, and if he can do it, somebody can do it. And
absolutely,
so both as an artist and a collector, it's inspiring, and it gives, I think, an entry point. So that's why I care about it, because it gives an entry point, because he's got this really well-crafted social graph. But whatever your budget is, you can basically afford an Xcopy, which is mind-blowing.
That's a great point. I mean, that is, I made a triangle many years ago that some people know about, and the entry point into the space, and I think this is still true today for many people.
We must make sure Nico puts this triangle up as well, because it is really good.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It was sort of on a whim, and you know, it's you know, blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while, right? So, you know, the entry point, I think, to this day is still PFPs. You know, a lot of people will see, you know, the next grade whatever PFP drop, profile picture drop, and they're generally really cheap. You know, you can get these things for 0.01 ETH sometimes or whatever. That's interesting. They'll go to zero, but whatever, I got into the space. And then it becomes a little bit more sophisticated after that. And it would be really interesting to get people interested in the space through something like an Xcopy edition rather than a PFP, because actually that is a far more interesting and I think enriching experience to go through, rather than just buying a kitten and getting rugged and then deciding whether or not you want to stick around.
And using AI or some sort of algorithm, somebody can produce a large number of different, so they're one of 10,000, as opposed to one of 10,000. Well, I mean, punks are that and stuff like that, but there's stuff that can be interesting that can be done that are art and not PFPs.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think anybody's done, actually, have they?
Well, I mean,
Crummy Squiggles.
A little self-promo here for a second.
Crummy Squiggles, I guess.
I think the memes by 6529, which I work with heavily, I think that to me is one of the best entry points in the space, simply because it's, you know, whatever, $100 to $200 per drop, per card. you gain access to an entire ecosystem, which we don't have to talk about necessarily on this call, but at a minimum, you're getting access to an entire network of artists at a very accessible price.
Yeah.
And then it becomes an interesting exercise in what's next. And as you kind of continue to explore, we've done a lot of the hard work for you. There's traits, the artists are clearly identified. We have a whole website dedicated to it. That's a really good resources. Even if you never buy another meme card again, it's really interesting to.
And it's also a way of discovering art, because we'll come on to the whole discovery thing, but it's a great way to discover artists. It's a great way to discover people, because we're all scattered around the world, living in random places. And generally the people at your dinner table are not interested in what you've got to say about any of this. But so you want to meet people and hang out with them online. And so generally, so that you're laughing because
the number of times I've been called an idiot at my own dinner table has been astonishing, let alone, with friends and other family members.
So the whole memes community thing, I totally agree.
And there's others too. I mean, clickcreate.io is a great one as well. I've done curations with them. There's so much to look at. There's so many interesting things. Follow Roger Dickerman on Twitter. I mean, he's always got interesting things to talk
Roger's
about.
Roger's fantastic because you see what is trading, what is happening, and he curates somewhat to make sense of it. That's a really great place to start. I just want to talk about the other social graph before we go into this whole discovery part. Is the other mechanism, which is the opposite, has been Beeple, which is another super clever way. So he produces art every day, which he doesn't sell. And he sells a few of those as one-of-ones to private collectors. Then he put basically a couple of collections, and that's it. And they just trade on secondary at higher and higher levels as the social graph just gets spread and people compete for him. And now he creates these kind of physical, digital, ridiculously expensive, beautiful pieces. So he doesn't even actually sell the lower tier art. He just shows it because I always think of Beeple as the person who ties the bow on the internet at the end of every day. I always love to see his final post because it's like, that was the internet for the day. We can all go to bed now.
I agree with that like 95% of the time. That 5% though, sometimes it's like, oh man, like the one with P. Diddy recently. I was like, cover my eyes, man. I can't.
Oh, some of the ones with SBF they were really bad.
Yeah, but all the other ones, yes, I mean, they're a joy to look at.
Yeah, and I just think it's a different way of approaching it. So he's actually using exclusivity, the whole idea of right-click save and then exclusivity, and there's actually quite a big leap. There wasn't in the beginning because they were cheaper, but now they're getting more and more and more expensive.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things about Beeple who I absolutely love. He and his brother Scott are just gems in the space. There's two things that are different about him. I think they're kind of anomalies to me in this whole idea of networked. Number one is he's been networked for decades. I mean, he had a shit ton. I haven't even gone back and looked, but a shit ton of followers even before NFTs came around. I mean, he predates crypto. He predates many, many things, so he already had his network coming into the space. The thing that really supercharged it, though, I mean, not to be like too blunt about this, but if you make a $69 million art sale, you're in the pantheon. I mean, period. End of story. There's no need to build out your network. That is your network. And he had it already. So I think he's in a unique position of being able to dictate his market in a way that others simply cannot. But I think it's a really good example.
Yeah, it's because there is not one size fits all. Is the point we're trying to make here is like, there's interest. You can come in through different mechanisms. So let's talk about discovery. So,
oh yeah,
we'll talk about how broken it is and what we need to do to fix it. But talk me through your discovery journey. So you come in, you buy a few things, but how the fuck do you find anything? What's value? What's got social consensus? Does it matter? This is all I get from everybody is, please help me. I get an OpenSea. It's just like, I don't know anything. I end up just buying some stupid shit that's worth nothing. How did you approach it? And then we'll talk about how people should approach it. Because we've all made the mistakes as well.
Oh, I mean, I make mistakes every single day. It's, you're going to lose money. So you have to accept that. I mean, you are going to come in here. It's like an angel investing portfolio. You are going to take a few shots and a couple of them are not going to work out. You like, if that doesn't work, it's just like the stock market. You're going to buy 10 stocks. You'll be lucky if 6 of them work out. If you bat 55%, you're in the big leagues in the stock market right now. So you have to think about it that way. I approached it, this is me. Everybody's a little different. I'm like, ready, fire, aim type of person.
I've noticed. It's not a single day where you haven't found a new artist and bought it. My feed is every day you buying something, discovering somebody. And it's not even the same style every time. It's like, oh, and here's a photograph, and here's this, and here's generative, and here's some. I'm like, okay, the sky's broad.
Yeah, I used to have a team of people working for me when I ran a hedge fund, and they hated when I did this, but I'm a true believer in this style. Somebody comes to you with an idea, you put it on the books immediately. You do not wait. You put a small position on immediately, because what it does is it holds everyone else's feet to the fire to work on it. Okay, now we have a short position on in Palantir. You better get your ass in gear and decide why we're short this thing right now. I'm not talking huge. I'm not telling people go out and spend $1 million on a next copy right now. Like, go in small, but go in. And what that does is it forces you to do the work. So go buy a meme card by an artist you've never heard of, and then back into it and do the work. The worst that's going to happen is you spent $200 or $150, and it's still a piece of art at the end of the day in a pretty liquid market. You could always sell it if you change your mind. The price isn't going to go to zero. But what it does is it gets you your feet wet. It gets you in the ecosystem. After that, then you sort of start doing research and taking the next steps and deciding what you like and don't like. And that's where it becomes a challenge. This is a double-edged sword. Our discovery here is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it is miserable. It is outrageously bad. The typical process for discovery is getting a Twitter account and following artists and collectors on Twitter. That's a shit process. And I don't want to bag on the platforms, because a lot of them have gone out of business because it's been so bad. But we haven't gotten a lot of assistance from the platforms. I think Super is doing a much better job lately. I think again, 6529 memes do a good job of networking this type of stuff to create, but it's really, really hard. It's super hard. So where does that leave you? Surfing feeds at Super Rare and our meme cards and Click Create and things like that is a really fun way to have a cup of coffee in the morning and spend the morning.
Another even easier hack is follow the Super Rare bot.
Yeah.
See what trades on Super Rare with your coffee in the morning. That's a nice one to do. And the Roger Dickerman 24 Hours of Art.
Yeah, follow Roger for sure. Exactly.
And that's a pretty good place to start saying, okay, what are the types of genres, what trades are what prices? It's pretty useful.
I would say follow Mondo Minutes as well, my friend Mondo.
He does Mando's on Real Vision every week as well.
He does a great email. It's daily. It's fantastic as well. There's a gentleman out there called Tyler. And I'd have to get his Twitter handle for you, but he does a daily email. It's really, really good. I read it every day. So there's different periodicals. So that's the one edge of the sword. You kind of have to piece this together. You kind of have to, start following people and then go down the rabbit hole of the next person. There is no easy way to just hit the ground running. It is really, you have to spend the time to do it. The other edge of the sword is, and this is the good side, is that because of this, because it's such a pain in the ass, because people don't want to bother with the friction, there is opportunity. Again, I mentioned earlier, like an idiot like me who has no art background whatsoever has been able to amass what I think is a phenomenal portfolio of digital art. And that window is still open. That window is still open. We are nowhere near. I mean, I don't even remember what the market cap is of NFTs. I think it's something around $10 billion. The market cap of crypto, I think, is approaching like 3 trillion.
4 trillion.
4 trillion. It's nothing. Zero. I mean, it's not even like a rounding error, right? So if you think about it in those terms, we have so much more room to grow into this. So you think about that as well. Like if you're willing to put in a little bit of effort, you can take advantage of this window of opportunity we're in right now and discover these just amazing artists who are being basically, we're all kind of being left for dead because everybody thinks we're crypto bro idiots, which could not be further from the truth.
I just think of this, like the magic of tokens is that, we're rebuilding the internet, and you can own a new share of the new infrastructure. Again, we go back to cultural movements. If you could have owned everything that came out of the cultural movements of the 60s or the 70s punk scene or whatever, all of these things.
Or the 90s. I mean, we've talked about that as well, even as early as the 90s. Yeah.
Imagine if you owned sort of all the stuff that happened in Ibiza. You could own a share of what happened with Oasis and Blur, and what happened in New York, and what happened, why did the Strokes come out because of the music that came out of London, and think of the artists. So all of that, you get to own a share of culture. That's how I've always approached it. To me, art is almost a great representation of culture and often technology, and particularly where those two combine, it's also interesting. But it's that. You get to own that. And how valuable is this going to be? Well, if you're glued all day on X, it's very valuable to you because this is your memories. This is what you're going to think about for the rest of your life is, oh my God, do you remember when I didn't sleep because I was in the trenches doing this and that? This is it.
I totally agree. I mean, I was a big fan of video games and punk rock music when I grew up. How do you own a piece of that culture?
That's right.
You know how you do it? You know how I've been doing it? You go on eBay and you buy these sort of like rated, I forget the name of the rating, the company that does this, but they grade all these different like Atari cartridges and Atari systems and Game Boys. And then they grade, like, Sid Vicious's guitar from back in the day with the Sex Pistols or things like that. That's how I get access to that kind of culture. That's how the traditional world can get access to that kind of culture. That is non-networked collectible. Very much going to be valuable someday, I think. I mean, very much worth, I think a pair of original Air Jordans game worn just sold for like $5 million or Sotheby's. Obviously, this stuff is super valuable. The interesting part about here, which I think you really nailed, is you can own a piece of culture digitally and, all around the world and take part in this right now. Right now, you can get in and become a part of this while the window's still open. I mean, I don't know if the window's going to close on all of this or anything like that, but this sort of movement, this early-ish digital art movement window, which I think is going to end up being quite valuable with the proliferation of AI, and we could talk about that later if you like too, but it's still open. It's still here, and you can own the meme culture, you can own the digital art culture that you just described in a way that you couldn't back then.
Yes, there's a lot of stuff that trades over 1 ETH, and you start to have to think about it because not everybody has a lot of money to allocate. But there's so much stuff. I mean, yesterday I bought, I don't know how many, 15 pieces of Pindar Van Arman, who's this amazing cutting edge, right at the forefront of technology, culture, everything, for 0.3 ETH, I think I bought.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, this was insane. It was insane. It was the wrong price, but insane. And I bought a whole bunch of them. But the point being, there is opportunity for everybody in this.
Absolutely. And let's just discuss real quick Pindar. I mean, he is literally an OG AI artist. I mean, the guy was doing this back before NFTs as well. He's one of those folks who's just been around doing it for a while, doing AI paintings. I mean, this is just an example, again, of what's going on in this space. How valuable do you think early AI type stuff is going to be 15 years from now when we've achieved ASI, which I think is going to happen, and, machines have dramatically changed everyone's life, and we have these cultural relics from a time right before it all happened, right before the singularity. Phenomenally valuable. Are you kidding me? Like, people of the future are going to look back on these types of artworks and be like, that is, that's an early Babe Ruth. That's an early Mickey Mantle. That's an early Jim Brown card. I mean, that's like these types of cultural objects where they're going to become super historic. And you could get one for 0.3 ETH. Are you kidding me? It's like, we're going to wake up at one point, like 15 years from now, and be like, I cannot fucking believe this happened, like this was the biggest arbitrage in world history.
And what, for people that don't understand about Pindar is he's got robots building art with AI, both digital and physical, right? It's like, and this
I have one hanging on my wall right here. I have a Pindar, yeah, and I know the digital.
This is where the future is going. Yeah, the world where ASI and where AGI moves to ASI. This is where the world is going. I had a long chat with ChatGPT about this, about the music industry as well, because I chat to my ChatGPT because that's the world we live in.
Yeah, way more interested in talking to me, that's for sure.
And I talked about the music industry. I'm like, we're kind of missing. We haven't had one of the big cultural waves for a while, probably since the 90s. It's kind of been lacking because we haven't had a big rebellion. And so
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
talking about rebellion, and I'm like, I can see where the rebellion's about to happen. It's about technology versus non-technology. And we're going to split and we're going to go three ways. One is the people who want to have the mosh pit, human, whatever experience, whatever that may be, or variations of it. Can be classical, could be anything. Then there's another part that will be the slop where AI just gets involved in the process. And then there's going to be a few people who are the kind of David Bowie of the space, Brian Eno's, who are going to experiment and create unknown sounds. And then AI itself is going to create unknown sounds in new ways. And it will
yeah.
be able to tour because of holograms. Because ABBA's been on tour in the UK for 4 years now. Nobody realizes that because of holograms. So we've got this, we're going to have this rage against the machine and the machines themselves. And then the people who are the transhumanists, the kind of people who adopt the technology, will driving. We're about to go through a really, really fascinating time in culture, I think.
I agree. I mean, I agree, and without expounding too much on my views on the world we're heading into, which I think you hit it really well. The Balaji wrote a post about this recently, which is just everybody should read it. It's fantastic, and basically what he said in it is that blockchain is going to end up being the only source of truth in the future because you can't hack it, and it's a public record that's unhackable over time since its creation. And now we're going to go into this world of AIs and ASI where who the hell knows? I mean, you think an ASI cannot complete an exact perfect replica of Rembrandt's Night Watch, which I just saw in Amsterdam, which is probably the most spectacular thing I've ever, work of art I've ever seen in my entire life. Absolutely. Like it's a no-brainer, like down to the crack. So what is real going into this world? Well, I can tell you what's real. Everything on the blockchain right now.
Forget the machines being able to copy art. Machines will be able to create art that it knows that humans will find immensely pleasing and put value in, because it's ASI is like human knowledge times infinity.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like
That's
it's
right.
mind-blowing work. But what I know we will all do is look back on the glory days of the past.
Yeah.
And that's we will cling on to. Even if we're transhumanist side of the equation, it's like, fuck it, let's just throw ourselves into this. We're still going to look back. Like my walls are covered with rock and roll photographs signed by Mick Rock or whoever the photographer is. Like that guitar is signed by Bowie and Stevie Ray Vaughan. It's like, because they're times of the past. And I know we're going to put value into this. The more it changes, the more we cling on to the past.
Absolutely. I mean, I just walked around London, and what are some of the most successful shops in London right now? Vinyl and vintage. I mean, if that does, and we haven't even started yet. Like we haven't even, like we're already going through a nostalgic, wave, and we haven't even gotten to the ASI. That's interesting. Yeah, I think what's going to end up, and this is sort of like I'm still trying to get my head around this particular concept. ASI, once we achieve, not even ASI, once we achieve like, AI that's even a little bit better than we are today, which is, maybe even next month, everything that we think we know about aesthetics is going to be just thrown out the window, right? You're going to start, and I think we're starting to see some of this now, but like AI can create as you said, the most perfect, aesthetically beautiful thing you've ever seen in your entire life.
That signals to our dopamine system, that whole thing where it actually triggers emotion on purpose.
Exactly. So what is going to end up becoming valuable in that kind of world? The things that led up to a human created piece, the journey of the artist, the background of the artist, the imperfections. I mean, I'm thinking about this baseball card I collected when I was a kid. There's a very famous baseball player named Cal Ripken. He was a shortstop on the Orioles. He's in the Hall of Fame, and his brother was named Billy Ripken. And there's this baseball card where Billy is holding a baseball bat with his hands. And as a practical joke, the team knew that his photo was going to be taken that day, and they put a sticker at the bottom of the bat that said "fuckface." That card was the most valuable card in the entire set that year, and that was like way that was in the 80s. So the value of human imperfection is already here. I just think it's going to be supercharged in an AI world, right? I mean, there's just like, we don't want to be fed the perfect view of art. I like the fact that, there's a piece of art out there that has that little something about it, that little like, that human aspect to it is just like, that's going to end up becoming very, very valuable as well, I
And
think.
then, what I also love is the people at the forefront of all of this, like Pindar and whether it's Kim Assendorf. But a piece I bought the other day was super interesting. It's a guy called Sares from Argentina. Very few pieces of art, but really complex what he does with how he creates his stuff. It's all generated working with AI and stuff like that. And this one is built up based on emotion and the emotional footprint that the algorithm produces from the person he got to look at the art, and he's using that it's super fucking clever. It's like multi-layered. I must show it to you, actually. You'll like it. It's like, I just saw it and I'm like, okay, this is incredible. Like that carbon piece I bought, the carbon piece.
Yeah, that was phenomenal.
I love that as well. I'm really excited about that. I've got nowhere to put it, but I still love it.
I mean, that's the thing. The evolution of this space is going to be phenomenal, right? I mean, the limiting factor of a canvas is the canvas itself and the paint that the person who, is like Rembrandt is a genius applies to it. The limiting factor of the digital art space is, I don't even know. It's limitless, right?
It's simply how much ETH I can get.
Exactly. So there's always going to be something coming out. I mean, I think this Kim Assendorf drop PXL that you mentioned is spectacular.
Oh my God.
I think it's one of the best drops I've seen. And what did he do? I think it was a real advancement of some of the things we had seen, certainly in pixel art, but just in the space in general. And I think every year or every 2 years, you're going to see another step change like that, because it's almost limitless. Human expression in digital format it has no bounds.
So to go back to the buying of stuff, and then I'll move on to some other stuff. Again, they're all hearing us now pontificate about when we're dropping artist names. They're like, what the fuck do you mean? How do I find these people? Whatever. But my process has been pretty simple because I'm a total moron. Is I use Lindy effects first. It's the easiest thing.
Yeah.
What survived last cycle that still has a social consensus people are talking about and pricing has maintained somewhat. That was you saw that with the Beeples and the X copies and a whole bunch of stuff, even out in the PFP space, everything from Rec Guy to MFers to the Hello Grand of crypto dick butts, which we have to discuss, there was a whole bunch of stuff that had Lindy effect. And it's like, generally speaking, things have Lindy effect in a second cycle do really well, and it's been de-risked. So I do that, and then it's like curation of what I collect now is really based on, I have a few key ideas of the kinds of things I like, really cultural stuff, but it has to be different. I'm not going to buy another glitch that copies X copy. I want something that is different, that stands out and goes, wow, okay, that's new. Or in the technology end of things, something that is strikingly advanced, that's like, okay, that's changed everything again. I'm not very good with the bit in the middle, the kind of more trad art stuff, because I don't really have an edge. But that's how I've approached it. Is the Lindy effects were the easiest thing for most people. You can use, I think it's called NFT floor price. It's just a nice way of just looking what's moving, and you can look at it in dollars and ETH.
Yeah, and you can go back and look at the history as well.
Yeah, exactly, and it's very useful. How do you think about? So I'm always top down because I'm macro, and you sound like you're an equity guy, so you're more bottoms up. So you're happier building a large spread. Okay, how many NFTs have you got? Ballpark within the closest 100.
NFTs or art NFTs? NFTs, I'm probably approaching somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,000. I told you, man, I'm sick. I need therapy. If anybody out there as a therapist specializes in NFTs, let me know.
You need an AI now, right? To sort this, because you have no idea what's in your collection.
Yes. I need someone or something to sort this. Yes.
Well, that was 6529's idea that really, really struck me when he talked about taking photographs. I was never taking a lot of photographs because I'm like, I never look at them, whatever. He's like, just take as many as you can because soon the AI will sort it. And now I've come to the realization, more importantly than that, you can exist in perpetuity if the AI can absorb your photographs in due course. Because you have
Yes.
the more information you put out into the internet now, which is a whole new game, you can live forever. Or an element
I
of you can live forever.
I agree with that. Yeah, I don't want to. I hope there's, I hope my estate decides that Batsoupyum had a nice run and this is the end of it when my time comes. But that'll be up to them, and I'll be dead. So what difference does it make? I'm gonna need help for sure. I would say, going back to this sort of idea of Lindy effects, I would put it into two categories, at least for me. There's the category of discovery, and there's the category of large, chunky purchases. When I used to run a hedge fund, I would tell, this is also somewhat counterintuitive. I remember very distinctly telling my team, Amazon was a better buy at $100 than it was at $6 a share, which it got to during the financial crisis. And they don't understand that. They're like, I don't get this. I don't get this. Because 99% of people here don't understand how to price risk. That is the fundamental. And I see that a lot in the equity market as well, but it's also a bit more sophisticated there. Everybody can think about price, but you have to think about risk adjusted price. So the reason why Amazon was a better price purchase at $100 than was at $6 is because they had massively de-risked the company at that time, and they were on a path towards success that they weren't on at $6. $6 could have very easily gone to zero. When it was at $100, that was sort of off the table at that point. So if you understand that, you understand the big chunky side of what I just said, which is, I totally agree with you. I am not going to go out and spend $500,000 on a brand new artist. I'm just not that person. I know there's people out there, and they're much smarter than me, and they have a much better art background than me. I cannot make that leap. It's too risky for me, from a financial perspective, even if I love the art. From the discovery side, the much lower price stuff, I mean, talking 0.3 for Pindars and $100 for a meme card, or $200 for a meme card, I'm much more willing to take that leap. In fact, I barely think about the financial aspect of it, and I buy the things I really love. So it depends on your budget in that respect as well. But I will say one other piece of advice. Most everyone who buys what they love, most people have not great taste, shall we say, to be nice, myself included. I don't think I've got like the greatest taste on planet Earth, but what I like to do is buy things I like because I'm supporting the artist, and I get to display it on white walls or whatever technology is out there these days. I get to display it in a way that shows off something that I really enjoy seeing when I wake up in the morning and have a cup of coffee. And then my financial downside is what it is, and I don't really think about it because I don't care.
And the other thing you can do is you can double check your own sanity. You can be early and like something and nobody else has to like it, and that's absolutely fine. That is art, and it should be that way. But if you're thinking about, hey, I don't know if I want to put 2 ETH into this, I don't want to lose money. Yes, you will probably lose money, but you may not. But the idea is you can just click and see who else owns it. Social consensus is very helpful. Do interesting people own it? And is it super concentrated, or is there a broad social graph?
Yeah.
And when you get to this, that simple hack, when you're seeing something, look on OpenSea or look on, any of the sites, super rare, just see who else owns it and see what they own.
And I mean, almost every single one of these artists, in fact, I can't think of one that isn't. Almost every single one of these artists is on Twitter. So you can go read their feed. You can decide if you like what they're doing or not like what they're doing. You can talk to them. You can hop in their DMs in many cases and say, what inspired you to create this piece? Like, they're very fun to talk to, and they want to talk with you, believe me, because they're nice. Most of them are really nice people. So you can go, this is the whole point of like networked art. This is why it's both competitive and beautiful. You get access to these folks in a way that you never would if you were, again, calling up Gagosian Gallery or Pace or whatever. Hey, I want to speak with, Damien Hirst about that piece he just created. Fuck off. Like, that's not happening. So, it's a little, maybe that we get to the point like that eventually with some of the bigger artists, but every time I DM Beeple, he's responded. Every time I DM'd Xcopy, he's responded. Every time I DM Sam Spratt, he's responded. Like, and these people go to events. Like, if you are new to the space and you want to really dive into this, go to the Toledo Art Museum next month. They're having a huge show. It's open to the public. I know Sam's going to be there. He has a phenomenal exhibit there, among a bunch of other phenomenal artists. I mean, Matt and John from CryptoPunks were there last time. I'm sure they're going to be there again. Like, these are like legends in the space, and they just show up, and you can walk up to them and say hi. It's like
And you
pretty
can also
cool.
go to Beeple's studio, and it's
Yes.
unbelievable. It's such an experience. And he holds events all the time. Just look at his feed and go there. Go to an event, you'll meet people. But what I don't understand how you do is how do you have the bandwidth to be, so early on artists? So you're looking at artists that don't yet have formed social consensus.
Yeah.
You are, you're the small cap stock picker in the space. And there's a lot. How do you do that? It's a genuine
Yeah.
question because I have no idea how you do it. Because every time I look at you buying stuff, it's like, how the hell did he find this?
Like I said, ready, fire, aim is
Yeah,
my
but
general
even
approach.
that, you say that flippantly, but that's not even easy. Even if I tried to do that, I wouldn't even know where to go.
Yeah, yeah. So a couple ways. These are somewhat revealing of my
Because you don't
secrets, but
pay,
I'm
you're
gonna.
not paying, you may pay high prices for some stuff. A lot of the time, you're not paying very high prices
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you're early in supporting an artist's career, which is amazing.
yeah. I mean, I going back to what I said at the beginning. I really like the support aspect of this. So if I find there's a couple criteria. Criteria number one is it has to be good art. I just have to like it. Again, I don't think I have particularly above average taste. I don't know that it's below average either. I'm probably like somewhere in the middle. But like I know what I like and I know what I don't like. And if I like something without ever having spoken to the artist or seen it before, I'm gonna grab it if it's at a reasonable price, just because I like it. How do I find that stuff? It's on Twitter. I explore the super rare feed. I'll see a meme card artist. I'll go back and look and be like, wow, this person did a really good job on this, and I hadn't seen that card before. Those are probably the three main methods.
For the super rare feed, you'll go through and see what's there.
Yeah, I will. I'll just look at it once in a while and do some sorting, like last sales or recently, created or something like that. Honestly, artists who recommend other artists is a phenomenal way to discover. I've been
Yeah.
encouraging more
They're
artists to do
great
that on my own
collectors,
feed.
all of them.
Oh,
Like
I mean,
Coldy
like
has a
Coldy is unbelievable. I mean, not only is he an unbelievable artist, he's an unbelievable collector. I'm like, who is this guy?
I
This
know.
is crazy good. And there's a number of artists like Matt Cain's a great collector as well, in addition to being a phenomenal artist. Like, there's quite a few of them out there. Those are the main ways. Foundation dot app, actually, believe it or not, they've kind of pivoted to another thing called Rodeo, but they're still out there, and you can go on there and look at artists, their past work and things like that. That's a fun one. Roger Dickerman, as we mentioned, is a really fun one. So how do I find it? Those are the ways, like that's sort of like the entryway. That's the way that I discover, oh wow, I really like the work that this person did, even though maybe this piece isn't for me. And I keep an eye on them. I'll write it down. I'll be like, okay, here's, an artist XYZ. I did this with Sasha Styles recently, like maybe a year ago, where she kind of takes this poetry in a way, and Ana Maria Caballero as well. They take this poetry in a way in the totally different styles, but they incorporate it into the digital format in a way that I've just never seen before. I was like, ooh, this is cool. I didn't go and buy it. Usually, I kind of violated my ready, fire, aim rule at that point, but I didn't go and buy anything right away. I just kind of kept an eye on it. And when they did something that I thought was really interesting, I went back to it. So I just keep a list, sometimes manually, sometimes on paper, of just sort of like, this person is doing really cool work. This work may not be for me necessarily, but in the future, I'd really like this. I just want to add, I have a healthy level of respect for people who have stuck around. Um, and they're automatically going to get, in my mind at least, a slight boost in sort of my respect level for them, because I mean, people maybe even on this call, we have been through hell and back, then back again, and then back again. I remember one time, I'll tell you a quick hedge fund story. I was running a pod for a large hedge fund, and the founder, who was a very well-known billionaire, I happened to be in New York City, and he was not around. Thank God. I didn't think he was around. I was meeting with the head of equities, and I was having literally the worst day I've ever had in my career. I mean, like I was losing so much fucking money, millions and millions and millions of dollars for no reason whatsoever. And the guy who's the head of equity says, "Oh, so and so just came back and wants to say hi." And I was like, I really don't want to. Like, I mean, this is like a noose around my neck. It's about to like go tight. That's how I felt. So his credit, so the head of the whole hedge fund walks into the door and he says, Bats, if you were any other person at this firm, and I was in like the 30th floor of their high rise. If you were any other person at this firm, they would have jumped out the window, climbed back up, and jumped out again. Great to see you. And then he took off, and I was like, oh my God, I almost just like got, skewered here. But it's a little bit like that, It's like, anyway, I'll shut up at this point. But that was just a fun side story to the
But
point.
it's true. People have been around. Also, I love finding artists and helping them in their journey. I spend a lot of time talking to them, and Lindsay, my girlfriend's very good at that as well. And we're just trying to help people, give them a bit of advice, because a lot of people don't really know much, and you try and just like piece them together. Hey, speak to these people, look how they do things, stuff like that, and just help nurture them, because the whole economy nurtures.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of just a real quick aside to this. I mean, I think that up until now, we've sort of talked about helping an artist as a financial transaction, but that actually could end up being a very, very small part of this. I mean, there are many, many ways to be a participant in the space. And you're not doing it out of altruism. You're just doing it because you're interested in what's going on here. And that to me is sort of like you've found a passion for this when you hit that point where you're just willing to do whatever it takes, even if no money is involved, to help someone out. Just show up at an event or talk to them and say, hey, I can't afford this work, but you did a really nice job on this. You wouldn't believe how far that goes.
Yeah, and just a little bit of thoughtfulness is just a nice thing. So, ending up with a couple of more. I mean, we keep talking for hours, but lending markets.
Yeah.
Tell me how this works. I've never been a borrower, never a lender. Yeah, I've used leverage, but I just don't. I have a fear of it all. What are you doing? Explain what you're up to. This is Gandhi and the incredible rise of borrowing and lending.
Yeah. So just to give a little background here, in addition to being just completely psychotic on this sort of tip of the idiot spear in the crypto space called NFTs, we've also decided to add leverage to our psychosis and lever up this insanity that we're going through, and just make it a little bit risky.
That usually ends well, right?
Yeah, it's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. It'll all end up great. So, all kidding aside, the interesting thing, I mean, this is part of this network. Things that you can do in a network. The financialization aspect of a network can be completely and totally built out in a way that you can never do in a traditional world. You have lending, you have tokens. I mean, Kim Assendorf, who we talked about earlier with PXL, has a token attached to PXL. I don't know if a lot of people realize this.
It's so clever. I bought 3 million more pixels. I figured this out. I'm buying pixels.
Yes, exactly.
It's amazing. So super cool.
We talked about RecTrings earlier. There's a token, we call it a brand token attached to RecTrings. So there's this whole financialization aspect to the network that we didn't even get into. Of that, lending is a piece of it. So I do lending on Gandhi, and the reason why, and I do it mostly against art. I mostly do most of my loans are against digital art. I don't necessarily recommend most people go down this hole. But I will at least explain to you what's going on. It is a system that can only exist in Web3. I don't know who the people are. I see the art and I value it. I make a loan against it. I have no idea who this person is. That piece of art gets escrowed in a smart contract. The money changes hands. That smart contract will execute a single decision at a single point in time, which is either give the piece back to the borrower because they paid off the loan, or the loan defaults and the piece goes to me as the lender. And that's it. It's all software. It's all smart contract based. The only due diligence I do is on the artwork itself. I am in a weird position, unlike most people, where I work with the 6529 group. Therefore, we run 5 different funds that have bought digital art over time, quite a lot of money. And we have to value those every single year. I'm on the team that has to run that audit process every single year. So I'm literally, we own over 1,000 pieces of digital art, and we have to value every single one of them for our LPs. So I know already what a lot of this stuff is worth. So I'm able to lend against it. And that's why I personally have very few defaults. I think where it gets a little crazy is in lending against, some of the PFP stuff that just is so highly volatile. Like, not to pick on Moonbirds, I'm really happy for they're having a lovely redemption arc right now, but making an 80% LTV loan against Moonbirds, which have tripled in the last month, is probably not a great idea.
So let's say somebody's borrowing against an X copy. Let's say it's a 1 of 24, so it's liquid enough that you've got a decent idea. How much leverage you offer? What is the backstop that you get given the piece of art for normally? So let's say the piece of art in the open market trades at 40 ETH.
Yeah.
What would you lend against it?
Everybody's different. So I'll tell you what my parameters are. I'm typically around 50 to 60% LTV.
Right.
I'll personally do loans up to a year, and the rates are quite high. The rates are low 20s. So,
and then if somebody defaults, you get it at the 50% of LTV?
Correct. No. You get the piece wherever it is. So, these borrowers have a put, obviously, right? I mean, they can put the piece back to you over the course, of the course of the year at the due date. So, for example, I had 4 autoglyphs. Autoglyphs are a very famous generative collection. I had 4 autoglyphs. I've only ever had 5 defaults on, I think 170 loans I've made. And 4 of them were autoglyphs. And what happened was the autoglyph market crashed. So I made a 50% LTV loan. The autoglyph market crashed to like 150 grand. These loans were at 200 grand, and they all came back to me, which is exactly what should happen, right? I mean, if I were the borrower, I'd have put them back to me too. Luckily, the market rallied immensely, and I was able to sell them for a much higher.
Are they priced in? They're priced in dollars, not ETH. Or ETH.
I price in dollars on loans. Most people, I think, price in ETH. That's another. We could spend an hour on this discussion because it's crazy. But the markets in art and punks and things like that, I think, are still largely priced in ETH. I don't price in ETH anymore, in large part because my stack of ETH is a lot lower than it used to be. So I'm thinking about things in terms of dollars because now I have to buy the ETH in order to acquire something.
Final question, and the most important one. Talk to me about crypto dick butts.
So when I was thinking about this today. When I came on with AC a couple of years ago, we talked about dick butts. So crypto dick butts are about 5,500, I believe, roughly, of a cartoon created many, many years ago that ended up becoming somebody created a collection of different ones and put them on chain. And to me, they've always represented the tokenized version of real life degeneracy. So what do I mean by that? We are all kind of weird around here, very obviously. We all kind of have our quirks and our libertarianism and, what have you. And the one common theme is that people love sort of the degenerate aspect to this. The number 69 will get a laugh every time. 420 every time. Just silliness, stupidness. Really, backing up for a second, we have taken the art world, we have taken many things about like the trad art, the seriousness of the trad art world, and made it fun. I cannot stress enough how important it is that we are all having a very good time. So to me, dick butts are a representation of just sort of the stupidity of, like the top level stupidity that we're all experiencing in a very playful and fun way. I think they're brilliant. If you go, there's a Dick Butts Telegram group, which sometimes I just quietly go onto and just laugh my ass off because people are just posting ridiculous things on there. But it's just fun, and it's immature and stupid. Yeah, I get it.
Because we've gone through fucking hell and back, to be honest.
Exactly.
Those of us have been around for a while. We've driven eye-watering P&L swings where everybody around you questions. You question yourself. You question your sanity. It's scary. Everyone's businesses implode, their cash flows implode, their assets implode, and we still go through it and we still laugh about it.
Exactly.
And dick butts is that. It's like, it's so stupid that unless you've been in the space, you're like, what on earth is this? But to anybody else, it's like, it's an OG asset to me. Punks don't do this. This is just like, Yeah. If you know this, you know the space.
If you know this, you're the space exactly. But I would tell you a really quick story. I was on a on a whitewater trip recently, unexpectedly, I shall say, because I didn't mean to go through whitewater. And our boat flipped, and like an idiot, I didn't have a life vest on, and we all almost died. I mean, it was a pretty serious incident. And how do we identify with that incident right now? We laugh about it. I mean, it's just stupid. We're idiots. I mean, we're a bunch of dumbass, guys that we should have been scared for our lives, but we laugh about it. And I feel like the same way about dick butts. Dick butts are a representation of just sort of like the hell, the back, the hell, the back, the stupidity, the idiocy, the ha ha. Like, if you know about dick butts, you know about the whitewater crash that I went through. There's a parallel there that I think is interesting where, we just sort of laugh about it, but in the back of our minds, we all know what we went through to get to this point.
And that's one of the things that when people come to me and say, how do I get into the space? You kind of figure out what their wallet size is, what kind of investment they want to make. I'm like, listen, if you want to make your first big move and you've got some decent capital, buy CryptoPunk. It's a good place to start. You can connect with people. You'll learn very quickly. If you don't, and you still like that kind of thing, buy a dick butt. It's still relatively cheap, and it's an OG asset. Look who owns them. Just go through who owns them. Go through their wallets. See what else they own. The whole world will open up just by doing that one trick. Is buy a dick butt. Go through all of the owners, and then if not, I think the 6529 memes is a really, really great idea as a super easy entry point. And then what I love about the memes is you've got a community already built out of people trying to make decisions about this, think things through, to communicate with, who are passionate about it. And before you know it, you can ask all the dumb questions. We've all had to ask dumb questions. We all, we'll hit each other up on Twitter and say, well, how does that work? Or what is that? Like I'm asking the dumb question about the lending because I'm like, how does that work? And that's okay. We can all do that.
Yeah, we've done a lot of the heavy work for you in the 6529 ecosystem. So you can just go, I'll plug it real quick, 6529.io, and there's a ton of resources there to check out. So I think you can have a lot of fun. I will tell you one, to wrap up, one really funny story. So you've had 6529 on here a number of times. We were charged. I remember this was back in like 22 when we were with a fund. This was one of our major funds. We have quite a few LPs. Where I think we have like at the time like $70 million under management that we raised. So not like small peanuts here. And we spent, I'm not kidding you, agonizing hours trying to find. There's only 12 legendary dick butts, and we spent hours trying to find one. And we finally bought one. It was the Spider-Man dick butt, and I still remember to this day.
69 ETH you paid for that. You set the high.
I think I can't remember.
No, that was you. Number. You owned. I think it was you personally.
I own the Paris Hilton dick butt, and I think I paid 20 ETH for it. I can't remember exactly what we paid for the Spider-Man, but it was one of the Grails, and I'm not kidding you. It was the same. So we hold a weekly call, right? There's maybe 10 of us, and the reaction to getting that Grail, one of the Grail 12 dick butts, was basically the same as if we had just bought like a Rothko, like a rare Rothko for $100 million. Like we were high-fiving, we were celebrating. It was like we achieved, just unbelievable, status amongst ourselves. We were so proud of ourselves. I mean, I will always look back on that story and laugh because it's just, we're idiots. I mean, it's stupid, but it was
I'm
so
still
fun
trying to buy. And I've tried every angle, can't get hold of Ray, who owns it. I need the banana dick butt. It's an ultra rare Grail, one of the Grails.
I know exactly the one you're talking about.
And it's owned by some. It needs to be mine. It must be mine.
It's the Banana Zone dick butt. I think I'm rooting for you, man. Let me know how I can help.
I mean, everybody's tried. Even Eli can't get to him. So nobody can get to him. It's like, oh, please, I just need the Banana Zone dick butt.
I'm rooting for you, man. Come on.
All right, my friend. Fantastic conversation. Thanks for everything. Do you have a just a wallet that displays your art where people can look at stuff? A public wallet or
yes.
not?
Yeah. You can go. My display has taken a turn for the worse. I really need an AI and an artist probably to help me out. I used to have everything displayed on Cyber, but I've not kept up with it. So all of my art, if you just go to Batsoupyum vault.eth, everything is in there that I've collected. Yeah, everything's in there. So but have I done the work? I mean, again, I think this is one of the biggest differences between where we are and where the Tradar world is. We have very far to go on displaying the art. We will get there. And we're making huge strides. White Walls has been phenomenal. Changed my life, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think there's even like more iterations of that to come. And I think Toledo has done a phenomenal job of taking the next step, to be honest. But like, we have a ways to go. So my excuse is I'm waiting for that moment, and then I'm going to put all my energy into displaying my art.
I've been pretty good about it because I did it a while ago when my collection was smaller, and I created galleries on OpenSea just as an easy way, and just broke it down into ways that made sense for me. And then I've been able to keep on top of it. You have to keep getting rid of the bloody spam that comes in your wallet. But the galleries on OpenSea, so mine is the culturevault.eth for anybody watching this. But yeah, I mean, go down because you've got an incredible collection. You're always, one of the greatest people in the space. It's been an inspiration doing that. And I'm looking forward to seeing you somewhere in person very soon.
Likewise. And I just want to point out that relative to what we were saying earlier, if we are going to OpenSea, no, nothing against OpenSea, I love OpenSea. If we are going to OpenSea to quote unquote display our high value art pieces, it tells you how much further we have to go. And we'll get there. But this is a testament to how early it is. So
yeah, I mean, I went on that fight on Twitter recently. Really interesting because I kind of lost my shit over this because I onboard so many people, and they're like, okay, well, how do I find out? I'm sorry, you can't. Is there like an AI algorithm? No. What happens if I just want to see what these people collect and find a commonality? No. Okay. Is there anything? No. I can't.
What were the highest last sales in the last 6 months? I don't know. Where could I go to see that? You can't. Just basic research information.
Right.
It's not even
I'm sorry,
out there.
I can't help you at all. Go and buy crypto dick butt. That's all I do.
Yeah. But what you should do is go start a wallet. Oh, by the way, write down your passphrase on a piece with a paper with a pen. Never lose that. Never give it to anybody. Put it in a book. I was literally told to put it in a book. And then go and buy, thousands of dollars of ETH, and then go find another piece of rare art that you might get stolen down the road because somebody rugs you and steals your wallet. It's like we have asked for a lot, and yet we persist, which I think is a testament to the durability. I think we're going to make it.
I think we're going to make it. All right, my friend. Good to see you. Thanks so much.
So much fun. Thanks for having me.
So look, great conversation with Bats. Him and I could speak forever on this. It's a rabbit hole. You go down and you start learning more and more and more. It is more than a financial game. Yes, there is generational changing wealth to be made out of art. That's always been the case in art. If you get it right, if you figure it out, buy the right pieces, it can be worth a lot. But more than that, it's full of fucking great people, amazing artists. And they can be new artists. You don't have to buy the most expensive X copies or whatever it is, or Beeples. There's new artists to support, new styles of art, new experimentation with computers and AI and physical and digital and all of these things. And it's amazing to be involved in culture. You don't have to go to the museum now. You don't have to go to the opera. You don't have to go to a music festival. It's happening in front of us online every day. So dip your toes in and get involved, because art is never going away. Art is the story of humanity. Anyway, see you next time. So here we are, Token 2049. It really is one of the most energetic, incredible events. Speakers from all around the world and visitors from every country you can ever imagine, all trying to learn something together, something new, this exciting world of crypto and technology. It's where you go and make friends, lifelong friends. And what's so nice is to see people with big smiles on their faces, happy to be here and happy to be together. So hopefully see you next time in Singapore. Real Vision will be there. I look forward to seeing you all. So you obviously like this video enough that you've got to the end. That's quite a big task. But listen, do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe button, and also check out what video's next, because I think you'll love it. But if you want even more, and when I'm talking more, I'm talking about member-generated ideas, incredible alpha, research, everything there to help you in your journey. Just head to realvision.com/join for the best financial intelligence out there and the pure alpha that's within the platform.